Thank you all for volunteering to participate in the VOCA Evaluation Committee. I'm Jean Booth, the Social Service Program Specialist with the Victim Service section of the Grants Management Unit. Today, I want to make sure everyone knows what to expect with the Evaluation Committee. Here's the quick agenda of topics we will be reviewing in today's webinar. If you have questions that are not part of the agenda items or in any part of this process moving forward, please feel free to reach out and ask. We want to answer all your questions. What is VOCA? The Victims of Crime Act was passed by Congress in 1984. The Crime Victims Fund was established and is generated from fines and penalties paid by convicted federal offenders, not tax dollars. The Crime Victims Fund is distributed by the Office of Victims of Crime, OVC, through the Department of Justice, DOJ. The VOCA Assistance Program funding is available for states to fund and facilitate the development of programs to provide direct services to victims of crime. VOCA in Nevada. The goal of the VOCA Assistance Program is to promote and support quality victim services programs across the state. The Division of Child and Family Services within the state of Nevada, DHHS, is the state administering agency that administers VOCA funding to subrecipients. The role of DCFS is to ensure that subrecipients are eligible to receive VOCA funding and have the organizational capacity to effectively administer the VOCA funding while maintaining quality and compliance standards and are abiding by state and federal rules and regulations. Nevada has chosen to allocate VOCA funding based on the following geographic distribution percentages: 69% to Clark County, 19% to Washoe County, and 12% to rural counties based off the 2020 VOCA Needs Assessment. The geographic distribution allows for direct services for victims to be provided in both urban areas with larger populations and allows for funding to also be made available for victims in the smaller communities in rural areas. For state fiscal year 24, VOCA has $13 million available to fund for Nevada. The federal mandate for VOCA requires Nevada to allocate at least 10% of each year's VOCA grant to victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse, and underserved populations. Nevada funding or VOCA funding priority is given to programs that serve victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, child abuse, and underserved victims. The current allocation for Nevada's underserved population is based on the findings from the 2022 VOCA Needs Assessment. The amount of funding available by the geographic distribution and priority areas considers all the different types of victim service needs, while also fostering innovation and helping to build capacity for agencies providing direct services to victims across the state. Nevada's underserved populations are children and minors, immigrants, elderly, people with disabilities, LGBTQIA2+, tribal communities, and the homeless. Due to the recent VOCA funding cuts, DCFS has determined that the main point of focus for state fiscal year 24 funding will be for direct victim services. Exceptional justification and cost allocation must be provided for any supportive or administrative services to be considered for funding. Collaboration with other victim service providers is one of our focus areas for this fiscal year. VOCA eligible subrecipients will demonstrate collaboration with other victim service providers and other community providers. Collaboration with other victim service providers will eliminate the overlap in payments and services in your area. Sustainability is our other focus point for this fiscal year. Eligible subrecipients should be able to describe their agency's sustainability plan outside of VOCA funding, including diverse funding resources, staff commitments, and longevity of the organization. Sustainability should show less reliance on VOCA funding. According to the National Council of Nonprofits, a nonprofit financial sustainability plan is a plan that allows a nonprofit to sustain itself over the long term so that it is able to continue to support its mission. Shrinking budgets at the state, national, and municipal levels means there's less to go around. Most agencies end up getting less funding than they want or need, while some are left with no funding at all. Having a steady income from any source is hard, and that can make budgeting a real challenge. What are the ways to make an organization sustainable? Team building efforts, diversify fundraising, rigorous marketing, and adopting technological solutions. And sustainability is the ability to maintain or support a process continuously over time. Switching gears now, here's a list of VOCA allowable direct service costs. Immediate emotional, psychological, and physical health and safety, which includes shelter, personal advocacy and emotional support, mental health counseling and care, peer support, facilitation of participation in the criminal justice and other public proceeding arising from the crime, legal assistance, forensic medical evidence collection examinations, forensic interviews, transportation, public awareness, transitional housing, relocation. Allowable costs for activities supporting the direct services are coordination of activities, supervision of direct service providers, multi-system, interagency, multidisciplinary response to crime victim needs, contracts for professional services, automated systems and technology, volunteer trainings, and restorative justice. Here's a list of the allowable subrecipient administrative costs. These include things like skills training for staff, training materials, training-related travel, equipment and furniture, contracts for professional services, operating costs, repair and/or replacement of essential items, and public presentations. Please be aware that any of these requests must have exceptional justification to be eligible for funding. In a nutshell, here's an overview list of all the allowable cost categories we've just reviewed. VOCA funds may include, but are not limited to, use in the following: coordination of activities, supervision of direct service providers, multi-system, interagency, multidisciplinary response to crime victim needs, contracts for professional services, automated systems and technology, volunteer trainings, and restorative justice. Here's a list of unallowable costs under VOCA: lobbying and administrative advocacy, perpetrator rehabilitation and counseling, needs assessments, surveys, evaluations, studies, prosecution activities. VOCA strictly prohibits using funds for criminal defense and tort lawsuits. Fundraising activities, capital expenses, property loss, most medical costs, relocation expenses, administrative staff expenses, development of protocols, interagency agreements, and other working agreements, costs of sending an individual crime victim to conferences, activities exclusively related to crime prevention. The purpose of the scope of work is to provide a clear and concise description of services that will be provided with grant funding in an easy, at-a-glance format. This is not a narrative. It will have measurable deliverables and connect the budget narrative to the goals and objectives. Your state fiscal year 24 budget narrative, sorry, there's a typo on this tab. This is an Excel workbook with 3 tabs. With the applications, I believe everyone's converted it to an Adobe, and it should be within all the applications. All 3 sections must be completed, and this includes the budget narrative, the budget summary, and the match budget narrative. We'll touch briefly on the budget summary and the match budget. Column B on the budget summary tab should match with the totals from Form 1, which is your budget narrative. Column C through G should include all other funding sources for this project. This summary tab should not be blank. Match column should match with the totals from Form 3, which is the match budget. This is a very important part of the application and is often missed. Points do need to be deducted if it is not completed. The budget narrative Form 3 is the match budget. It looks just like the Form 1, which is your budget narrative, but it's for match. Match is 20% of the total award. Match can be non-federal funding, donations, or volunteers. During the pandemic, all VOCA match can be waived. If match is requested to be waived, it should be noted on the pink line on Form 3 instead of entering match sources. The evaluation process is Applications are due from agencies by January 31st, and GMU does technical review of the applications. Applications and materials were emailed out to evaluation committee members on February 3rd. From February 3rd to February 20th, evaluation committee reviews the applications. And on February 21st and 22nd, the evaluation committee meets. And in March of 2023, funding decisions are finalized and agencies are notified. Before receiving your applications, you should have completed the conflict of interest and committee member agreement forms. The email with the number of applications you are reviewing included the VOCA NOFO so that you can see what the agencies were asked to provide, the scoring matrix to help you with the score sheet, and your reviewer number. Please remember that each application should have a separate score sheet. This is what your scoring matrix should look like. I did my best to place as many factors as I could in this matrix to assist with scoring. But if you find yourself in a situation where the factor is not listed, please use your best judgment. These are guidelines to scoring and are not set in stone. As an evaluator, you should use your best judgment based off these factors to properly score the applications. All applications should be scored fairly, impartially, and by using the same judgment. For example, if you deduct points because one agency is missing a mission statement, then you need to deduct points for any other agency missing the mission statement. The score sheet, please enter your reviewer number where it says reviewer name. Place the application you are reviewing where it says organization. The amount requested is helpful here. For section 1, you are not going to enter anything in that score, as that score total is 0. Please make a note if this is not completed though, because that does need to be completed. Section 2 is where the points start. You'll place your score for that portion in the green box. The gray box shows how many points that portion is worth. Enter any notes into the notes section that you feel are pertinent in explaining your score. These can be positives or negatives of that section. If the information is in another section, but not in the section it is asked for, please do not add points. For example, if an agency placed the mission statement in another section outside of the proposal narrative, they did not follow instructions and should not receive points for that. At the bottom of your score sheet, you will see the total funding recommendation. This is automatically calculated for you. In the orange box, please let us know your funding recommendation, full, partial, or no funding recommended. These are recommendations only. You are not deciding if an agency gets funded or not, but based off the application, you are letting us know your recommendations only. Please identify one area needing improvement. Finally, please let us know what you liked about this application. Prior to the meetings, an agenda will be emailed out. It is important that you review it and let us know if you have any scheduling conflicts. We understand that not everybody will be able to attend all 16 hours of the meeting time. We hope that you will attend as much as possible, as it will give you the fullest ability to discuss applications, but we would like people to at least be able to attend when we are discussing the agencies that they reviewed. If an emergency comes up and you are not able to attend a meeting that has an application you reviewed, we will need your score sheet prior to the meeting so that somebody else is able to share your comments. During the meeting, we will go over a brief overview of the application. Each person who reviewed the application will discuss their impressions and prepare to talk for 3 to 5 minutes about each application they reviewed. You're just going to discuss the strengths and the weaknesses and provide your funding recommendation. All other committee members will be able to ask questions about the application or provide comments during that time. All applications, reviewers, materials, and discussions are to remain confidential within the review committee. If you have any questions or need any assistance with any of your applications or any of the review committee rules and regulations, please feel free to reach out to us. My boss, Carla Delgado, her information is on the screen, and so is mine. The best way to reach me is via email, so I would encourage, if you have any questions, please reach out and let us know. Thank you.